Good afternoon everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to have a session. Lisa and I are going to discuss help, the meaning of help, what it means to get help, what the challenges can be in terms of seeking help, and the benefits around getting help. And in many ways the work that we do in the Recovery College is very much about looking at how we seek out help and support, and actually the emphasis on self-help as well. So seeking help is an important part of looking after your mental, physical and emotional well-being. So it's important to think then, what is that we need in terms of seeking help? So in order to get the help that we need to know what it is that we want and what we need, and we need to think about how we're going to get it. So self-awareness is actually key to seeking help, because when you know and understand yourself enough, you know what it is that you have to ask for. And it prompts you then to think about, where am I going to get the help that I need, and what is it that I require in order to live a meaningful life. And certainly at the times that are in it now, there is something around thinking about where we might seek help, maybe for different things that are going on in our lives, because people's lives are very much looking different in terms of the whole thing around COVID, and people are now starting to come back to work. And people will need different things, so it's important to think about what is help for us. Central to that area of self-awareness is education and self-knowledge, and this is acquired through life experience and developing relationships, learning to getting to know ourselves in relation to relationships, and actually getting to know yourself can be a very challenging and interesting journey. And in the work of recovery that we do, investigating and inquiring who you are in relation to other people in your life can actually prompt a lot of things in terms of how you think about yourself, how you see yourself, and how you might want to improve your life. As we say, education is central to self-awareness, and our job, our work in the Recovery College is very much based on education. And that's just not learning about things that are learning, having qualifications and learning things about other people. It's also very much about learning about yourself and learning what makes you tick.
And I think part of that self-awareness piece and knowing what it is that you might need help or support with, as you say, those can be different things. We might need very practical support in some areas. We might need emotional support, we might need company, we might just need somebody to listen. Just that social connection, and certainly with COVID that has impacted it significantly on people's life. Part of that self-awareness piece as well, though, is about knowing why it might be difficult for us to ask for help.
Yeah.
And there are many, many reasons different for different people. I mean, one of the things that springs to mind is people who've always been in caring roles, and that doesn't necessarily mean not everybody identifies as a carer as such, but if you've always been the kind of person who's perhaps supporting, some of you might be in specific caring roles. I know a lot of people who are working and then going home and caring for family, children maybe with additional needs. It's thinking about when you've always taken on that role in your life, you're used to the one who's always taken responsibility, taking charge, getting on with things. And that almost can become people's identity. And one of the courses we do, Learning to Speak Up for Yourself, one of the issues that comes up, and we had actually a few carers talk very much about this, is that their identity became tied up in their role as caring for others. And that can actually be quite difficult then to realize that outside of that role, you're a person as well who has needs, who has things that you might have to ask for. So that's one of the things, is if you're maybe just not used to doing it. For people as well who've maybe been let down or hurt, when they have reached out to ask for help, perhaps they haven't got the response that they were hoping for, perhaps it didn't actually go so well. There could be many reasons around having done it before and there wasn't something positive that came out of that. Also for people who are isolated, I mean, when I was very unwell, I didn't actually have a lot of people to ask for help. from, and it was very much about reaching out to the likes of Lifeline, to professionals and services, things like that. And that's also, we've got to recognise the limitations sometimes around that too, as well as the fact, I mean, I've spoken to people who are perhaps in their recovery journey, have not needed to use services so much coming up to COVID, and COVID has put restrictions in place that meant that people have become more challenged with their mental health. And it can be difficult, especially going through a whole taking back control, which is what our work is about, suddenly feeling that things are slipping, finally you're struggling to get out of bed in the morning, you realize you're not so well, your thoughts are not, where they should be. And that can be challenging. As someone myself who's been in a very bad place and is in a much better place now, things have been challenging for me the last number of months, and it's not that easy to actually say, do you know what, I'm struggling a bit at the moment and I maybe do need a bit of additional support, because I don't want you to jump in and fix things or take over from me when that was my experience before. But at the same time, it's about me taking responsibility as saying, I need a few extra things in place in order to ensure that things don't get any worse. So there's lots of different things maybe that, and I think something that has to be said about asking for help or support is you actually have to make yourself vulnerable. It's about saying to you, I don't actually have it all together. There's a lot of things out on social media, what people's lives are like, everything looks great. Suddenly I'm saying I'm actually struggling, I need some help along the way. What does that say about me? Does it mean I'm not coping? Does it mean I'm not good enough? We all have, and we've spoken in our videos before about those messages that we believe about ourselves and the stories we tell.
And there can be many reasons why we might not seek help or why we try to avoid seeking help, and often most of us want to be seen as strong. Want to be seen as strong individuals, and if you are a person in your family or in your workplace where you have a leading role, a managerial role, or a leading role at home, appearing vulnerable is something that often happens if you have to ask for help, and that can be a difficult place to be in. It's difficult to admit to that. If you're a very private person, it can also be difficult to ask for help. It's very exposing and can feel very uncomfortable, and if it's something that you don't normally do because you're usually a person who does all the caring and all the looking after, it can be very challenging. Judgment and stigma, there's a lot of judgment and stigma around seeking help, and I think there's a lot of messages out there that often remind people to seek help. Stuff in the media, TV adverts, looking after your mental and emotional well-being and seeking out help, and you have said about some phoning Lifeline or Samaritans or whatever there, Lisa, but there's also something around what does that mean if you have to do it. And people can become very internalised and feel that there's a lot of self-judgment actually around why you might actually have to reach out and seek help. So I suppose what the message that we are trying to impart here today is that we acknowledge that everybody needs help at some time.
Absolutely.
We all do.
Everybody.
Seeking it out can be challenging and difficult sometimes. But I think it's really important, if you're self-aware and you know what it is that you need, that you can find ways of seeking out help the best way possible, being clear and articulate about what it is that you need. If you can't be clear and articulate, who can act on your behalf or support you to ask for help and support you to reach out, point you in the direction, signpost you in the direction of the right people to provide support. And whilst there are a lot of challenges around getting in the way of seeking out support, there are a lot of benefits. Lots of benefits seeking out support. You're not on your own. No one is ever alone, although we acknowledge that often people can feel very alone. So good relationships are worth investing in, because that means you have someone to call on, someone to walk alongside you if that's what you need at those times. There are things that you can do for yourself. If you're involved in services, you can seek help from services. You can also seek help from voluntary groups, voluntary organisations. Peer connections. We are very conscious that there are new ways to connect within mental health services now through peer support workers. We have some peer support workers employed across services, not a lot but a few, and also, even if you're not involved in services, peer connections outside of that.
Yeah, and I think for us certainly over this time, and to say to anybody, maybe somebody's coming to you to say, you know, I need a bit of extra support or whatever, very often it's not about having to have all the answers or to know what to do or to have to solve the problem. It's very much, I mean, we've met with lots of new people through this COVID time who are just sharing about what they're going through as we're able to do in a very non-judgmental space where you can actually just be alongside somebody and actually just listen and care. And we were speaking about that this morning. It's very much just feeling valued, feeling that somebody's giving you the time to listen, to be there, to say, you know, we can figure this out. I might not have all the answers, but I'm here just to listen, can perhaps help you to look at what it is you might need to do, where you might need to go, if there is something. But for a lot of us, just that connection, just having somebody to talk to and to recognize that there's so many similarities amongst all of us that we struggle with as part of being a human being. And that in itself makes us feel less alone, more supported, benefits our mental health, and it's that kind of cycle.
So do think about reaching out if you need help, and remember, central to knowing that you need help is self-awareness and education about yourself, knowing what makes you tick and who you are in relation to your other relationships in your life. So if you do need help, do reach out. Do look at our Facebook page for other posters, for signposting to different parts of service. Do connect with your friends and your family and people who can walk alongside you and support you when you need that. So folks, have a nice weekend, and we'll check in with you again next week. Thank you.